The subject came up recently about how we can add a sort of blur or text in a box with a blurred background. Something like this, and have them all resizable and movable. So I had to think about it and came up with maybe not the best solution, but a solution. So we set up an adjustment clip, and we're going to work in this adjustment clip. What this allows is that you can bang the adjustment clip into your power bin, and it's available to sort of use in future projects. So we take the adjustment clip into Fusion, and we have our media in and out. The media in drags the footage from whatever's directly underneath it. So the first thing we need to set up is the actual blur itself. So to do that, I'll bring in a blur node, pipe in the media, and then we can view it and adjust the blur strength. Now we're going to want to mask the blur, so we bring in a rectangle, attach it, and now we can see we've got our blurred shape. So that was one part. The next part was the box outline. So to do that, we'll bring in a background, and again we will mask the box outline. So if we look at this background now, so we have this either as a solid background, or if we go into the rectangle, turn off solid and bring up the border width. Nothing happened. I don't know why nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? Oh, there we go. I actually just didn't bring it up far enough. So you get a border, which we can then put our text into. So if we bring in a text, we'll view the text node, and we'll type some innocuous text in there. And I'm going to just anchor it to one side just because that's what I prefer. So if we bring it over, so if we now merge our text and our box together, we now have our text in a box, which I think if we just recenter everything, because okay, forget that. Go back to my text node, just anchor it center for now, because otherwise it gets all messed up. So recenter it. So you've got your text in your box, adjust your box so that it sort of roughly fits your text. And then we need to merge the whole lot on top of our blur, and this gives us the effect we want. The difficulty we've got at the moment is that if we move any element, the other element stays put, so we need to somehow link them all together. The way I did that was I used expressions, so I'm going to use rectangle 2 as the main control. So if we click on rectangle 2 and just pin it, next I'm going to go to the text node so that the text stays in the centre of the box. I'm going to tie the text centre to the rectangle 2 centre. So open up your text, where you've got centre, right click, pick expression, and you get this little plus sign here. If you now click and hold the plus sign and drag out a line, and we want to find rectangle centre, so that's there. So now the centre of your text is mapped to the centre of your rectangle. What we also need to do is map the centre of your blur, which is in rectangle 1, to the same rectangle. So click on rectangle 2, make sure it's still pinned, go to rectangle 1 and do the same. So in rectangle 1, right click centre, expression, and then pick whip, as it's called, to the centre. So now your blur, your rectangle and your text are all tied to the same centre point. So if you click on rectangle 2, you can adjust its centre and everything else will come with it. The next thing I did was I wanted the blur to be the same size as my rectangle, so that if the rectangle box is adjusted, the blur will also adjust. So to do that, we need to look at our rectangle width and height, and we need to tie them to the blur rectangle's width and height. So it's the same principle. Open up rectangle 1, which is your blur rectangle, and right click on width and height. Choose expression for both so you get your plus signs, and then you do exactly the same. You pick width and you pick height for height. Now if you notice, the blur's filled out the black border. What I also did was I wanted this blur to just extend a little bit beyond that border, so I came to these expressions and I changed them. So you need the width plus a little bit more. So to work out the little bit more, I typed plus open brackets and then I copied this and pasted it there, and then I multiplied by, so 0.1 and then close bracket. That will make it 10% bigger than the black outline, 10% wider. So now you see that the border's just come over, and I did the same for the height. So plus open brackets and then copy rectangle 2 height, or type it if you want, but if you type it you need to get it exact. Multiply by 0.1, so again you're giving it 10%. Now you see here 10% that way doesn't seem to quite work, so come back into this expression to the very last number and just jiggle the figure a bit basically till you get what you want. Try 1.5. So yeah, not bad. Maybe a little bit more. So again, maybe 1.75. I'm sure there's some fancy mathematical formula for working it out, but I don't know it, so this was just a bit of trial and error. So maybe 0.2. Yeah, that looks about right. So now, again, if we come back into our rectangle 2 node, we can move things around and everything comes with us. But what we can also do is, if you go into your text node and maybe make your text a little bit smaller, we can come into our rectangle node and shrink the rectangle to fix the text, and the blur comes with it. And that was basically what I did. You just remember that rectangle 2, in fact you can rename it, use F2 to rename it, and you can say size, position, and your text is your text. And they're the only 2 nodes then that you need to worry about as far as controlling goes. One final nice touch that I did was we've still got size and position pinned, is I went into our blur rectangle and I tied the corner radius to the main rectangle's corner radius. That way, if you wish to sort of round the corners off, the blur will also round with them. Here you can just make it out. Maybe if we move it over to the biker, so you can, yeah, there you go, you can see it much better there, the corner rounds off. These extra length bits will be trial and error, just mess about, get figures that give what you want. Also, as you make the box bigger, those edges also proportionately increase, and as you make it smaller they decrease. Okay, so you've got your basic layout with your box, your blur and your text. You can use the various nodes to adjust border width, corners. What we're going to do is you're just going to merge from merge to back into the main video path, and this then puts your text box over your film. You can move it, adjust the blur, and do all the stuff you would want from a sort of little call out box. Change the background. Come into the background, you can change the colour and the opacity. And there you go. Hope that was helpful and somebody can use it. As an aside, what I've also done is converted the Fusion comp into a macro. So you'd bring an adjustment clip in, or you can do it directly onto the film if you want, but I use an adjustment clip. You've got your media in and media out. You would go into your macros and search for blur text box. And I had the media out selected so it went wrong, but basically you would drop it between media in and media out. And it pops your text box onto your film. In the inspector you've got all your controls. You can move it about on the screen, or you can use the inspector controls to sort of resize your text, change your text, change the width and height of your box, mess with the corner radius if you so desire, and then you can make a solid background, drop the border out of the way, or leave it if you want, makes no odds. Change your colour and your opacity. The beauty of the macro is that you're not having to think about which node does what. All your controls are available through the inspector. If you would like it, I'll leave a link in the description. You can have the macro. Just drop it into your macros folder. I hope you find it useful, and cheers for now.